Welcome into the Dog Dispatch, Georgia versus Auburn reaction show. M-Dubs, we got a little bit to talk about, my friend.
We do.
What a
Although
wild...
I'm gonna let you take the first half of this show. Much like the Georgia defense, I like to show up around halftime.
All right, we're gonna get into it. Georgia versus Auburn. We're gonna break it all down. Join the chat, join the comments. If you're listening to this on podcast, this was recorded live, so we apologize for whatever's about to happen. Here we go. All right, M-Dubs. Georgia beats Auburn 20-10 in one of the wildest games that I have ever seen personally. Georgia play for sure, but in college football in general. Give me your just immediate reaction from this football game with Georgia versus Auburn last night.
My immediate reaction is this moment in time is the earliest I could imagine doing any kind of reaction show, because I needed to turn the TV off. I needed to go for a walk. I needed to get on BetterHelp, and talk to somebody for a little bit. That was traumatic to watch Georgia. I think the takeaways, probably anybody watching this would scream these common takeaways like, why can't we game plan for the first half? What are we doing? Why does it take us so long? But when we show up, God, why can't we be like that more often? Some of those second half plays were unbelievable. And then I think the third takeaway for me is Auburn tears taste so salty and it's so good. So
the Auburn tears are absolutely delicious. I mean, they are mostly because, I mean, let's be honest. I do feel a little bad for a lot of my good Auburn friends who have been on a crazy ride with Auburn athletics, with the Auburn athletic football program specifically. But man, I haven't heard a team blame more on external factors. And I mean what happened to Oklahoma. I mean, I don't mean just this year. I just mean in general.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a team blame external factors as much as I've heard Auburn blame external factors for years, right? All the way. It's
because they've
Yeah.
lived and died by external factors
Yes.
for the last 2 decades. I mean, my goodness, there's a reason we talk about the voodoo of Jordan Hare. It goes in their favor so much. The biggest stunner for me was that there was voodoo in Jordan Hare last night that went Georgia's way. That's unbelievable. I don't know that I've ever seen that.
Say it. And I think that's the journey that Auburn's on, because they also had 4th and 31 versus Alabama in the Iron Bowl that was in Jordan Hare that went Alabama's way as well too, right? So, but let's talk a little bit about the game and this whole wild ride. The first half, I have not cursed at my television at a Georgia defense in a long time as much as I cursed at my television in the first half. And the reason being is Georgia versus Alabama, I kind of maybe could understand a little bit, right? I could understand a little bit with Ty Simpson. Third down after third down after third down, Georgia not getting pressure, Ty Simpson getting the ball out, etc. Auburn leads the entire country in sacks. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this on our pregame show, our preview show that you were on, and Georgia let Jackson Arnold look like a freaking Heisman Trophy candidate. A guy who has been getting beat up all year, let him sit back there and carve us up on third down. And I was just inexplicable to me as to what was happening in that first half. And more importantly, what was inexplicable was we couldn't get Auburn off the field. Like, we could not get Auburn off the field.
No.
And this is a team that every team that they have played have gotten them off the field over and over and over. And Georgia, with all these dudes, with everything, that we have in the chamber on that defensive side of the ball could not
Yeah.
get Auburn off the field. Ran 12 plays up until that goal line fumble that we'll talk about in a minute. What in the world do you think, is happening with the Georgia defense just at large?
I think it's this. So I've been in sales a long time. I've done a ton of presentations to, customer groups at, on-site meetings, whatever. And when you do sales for a long time, especially if you're good at it, what you learn is we got a few key things we've got to communicate in this meeting. But really where the magic's going to happen is when we get them talking and we start a dialogue and we start really hearing what's important to them. And so the risk of that in my job is over time you get a little lax and you say, you know what, let's not over prepare here, because really we've seen everything. Let's just get in there, hear what they have to say, and then we'll figure out how to answer. I'm afraid Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann have over rotated into that. We've played so many games, we've won so many games, we've seen so many things that, hey, we can prep, but really when we get on the field and see what the offense is throwing at us, then we can really go for it. And I know Kirby will be offended by that, and who am I to say that? But that's what it feels like. It feels like we prep so much, but we really just got to get in the game and let them punch us in the mouth and see what they're bringing, and then we can go for it. And man, that is like, we need a more dynamic offense if we're going to play like that. And Kirby said last night, we do not have this electric offense that's going to bomb over you in the first half. So,
man, and you hit the nail on the head. Like, what disappointed me about the Georgia defense last night, and we are talking first half. So let's break this down. Yep. We'll stick with the first half. We'll talk about the second half and everything that happened in between, including Hugh Freeze's halftime interview in a moment. But what disappointed me was Kirby was asked about defensive adjustments that they made in his press conference.
Yeah.
And I'll put in the clip for the podcast folks. We don't have it here live, but Kirby said nothing really. We didn't make any adjustments. He said we had a couple of things, but really it was striking and blocking and tackling. The way that he answered that question, again, who are we to question Kirby Smart and his defense, and all of those things that he has, all the accolades that he has built for himself. But that answer to me felt very much like what you're saying. It felt like Georgia is at a place on defense in the first half is where it's a roll the ball out, see what they're going to do, and then we'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. And I know that's probably not fair to those defensive coaches. Probably not fair to those defensive players who put in a game plan, etc. But Georgia hasn't had a halftime. Georgia's had one halftime lead in their last 9 games. That's a real stat. Their last 9 games, Georgia has had one halftime lead. And for me, the thing that explains that is the complacency and is the just the approach of, we heard all offseason, and Bubby, my guy, is in the chat. Thanks for joining, Bubby. Bubby says it seems like the first half FPE was MIA. Bubby, that is absolutely true. What I feel like is missing is Kirby said in the spring, we have added fire, passion, energy to our DNA traits. Kirby said in fall camp, these blue helmets for blue flames for the guys who have exhibited fire, passion, and energy. He said FPE in probably 100 times in press conferences. He talked about it at SEC Media Days. And then we roll the ball out there, and where the hell is the fire, passion, and energy on the defensive side of the ball? We can talk about the offense in a second because I think there's some issues there too. But my God, like if you're going to have fire, passion, and energy, Georgia is a team that built their brand, that won 2 national championships and back-to-back, that has had a coach who has built his entire career on fire, passion, and energy on that side of the ball. Yeah. And you cannot tell me that a lot of that, the issue, Kirby said in his press conference, he said, we put ourselves in positions where, if you don't win first down or second down, if you got third and first, if you got third down and 1 or 2, you're not going to win a lot of that, versus a team with a running quarterback, right? He said that in his press conference.
Yeah.
So why the hell are they winning first and second down? And I'm serious. I'm not saying like, listen, there are scheme. There are not probably at this point. It is clearly to say there are scheme issues with this Georgia defense, right?
Yeah.
But some of it is just Kirby has said it. You've heard it in his leaked locker room speeches where he said it's simple. Like, it's like strike the guy across from you, line up, beat the guy one-on-one across from you. And that Georgia defense has not seemed to be able to do that at all in a first half versus power 4 opponents versus SEC teams. And I don't get it, man, because I understand the situation of you're going to have teams that have mismatches. You're going to have teams that find stuff. You're going to have these are good coaches in the SEC. Hugh Freeze had a bye week. As bad as Hugh Freeze has been, you give a guy a bye week with his entire staff and everything to prepare for a game, you're probably going to get and we're retiring Cam Newton's number and the stadium is packed and it's Auburn voodoo at night. You're probably going to get a pretty good punch early in the game. But you're not getting a punch where they're gashing you like death by 1,000 cuts, like over and over and over and over down the field versus a team that clearly Georgia, has dudes that should be able to beat one-on-one. And so that for me, the first half defense, to me, I don't have any explanation. If Kirby is saying we didn't make many adjustments, it's just striking the guy, etc. That to me sounds a lot like it's fire, passion, energy. And I don't know, what this team needs. But the tale of two halves. You turn around, you shut Auburn out in the second half. You did it versus Alabama. You turn around and shut Alabama out in the second half. I mean, my God, like at the end of the day, if you show that you can do this over and over and over in the second half, what in the world is happening in the first half? And I don't have the answers. We'll review the tape. We'll have some shows this week where maybe we'll break it down. But boy, that first half was tough.
Yeah, in Kirby's defense, he went on to say you wouldn't understand the adjustments we made, and he's probably right. The average fan and probably the average person in that press room would not understand. But to your point, something is happening because Jackson Arnold ran all over our faces in that first half, and I'm pulling my hair out. Like, why do we make every quarterback look like a Heisman candidate? It's unbelievable. And then we came out after halftime and shut them down. Maybe adjustments is the wrong word, but Kirby, what's happening? Whatever is happening at halftime, can we do that before the game? That would be really nice.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, Locke Hesse in the chat says it doesn't seem like a lack of FP. It seems like a lack of preparation, which is on the coaches. I can get down with that. I can't get down with that when Kirby says we didn't make any adjustments. Then he says we made a couple things that you wouldn't understand. Maybe he really was legitimately just, lying. Because, boy, we can talk about some of that with Kirby Smart last night, and we will in a second. But maybe it could be that he doesn't want to give away his strategy and his game plan and all those things, right? Like, I mean, that may be it. So let's talk a little bit about the change, the middle eight, right? So for those who don't know, the middle eight, the last 4 minutes of the second quarter, the first 4 minutes of the third quarter, huge emphasis on that for Georgia this year of winning the middle eight.
Yep. And
Georgia won the middle eight, but not in the way that I think anyone expected them to win the middle eight, right? All right, so Auburn, all the momentum coming down there. That play on the goal line with Jackson Arnold. Let's talk about this thing. First of all, was it a fumble?
Was the ball moving? The ball's moving. A friend of ours said on their reaction show last night, touching the ball is not the same thing as possessing the ball. It's as simple as that for me. You're watching him move over the line, try to get to the line, and that ball rattles loose. And I love that we're getting hundreds of still shots of his hands, between the camera and the ball, and it looks like he's holding the ball. But in motion, that ball's moving. It was an absolute fumble. Yeah.
Yep. And I think there's two main things to talk about this. Yes. Number one, holding the ball is not possessing the ball. Having your hands on the ball is not possessing the ball. Number two, the ball was moving. Like what the broadcast, Sean McDonough and Greg McElroy. I like Sean McDonough. I have no problem with Sean McDonough. Greg McElroy, whatever. Those guys, the way that they were saying things definitively last night was really like malpractice when it comes to broadcasting, because they are sitting there. The play was called a fumble on the field. You're sitting there saying, I don't know what they're looking at. He's clearly possessing the ball. When you look and you can see the ball moving, they were focused on CJ Allen's fist coming in and punching, but the ball was moving before CJ Allen's.
Because Raylan Wilson,
exactly. Raylan Wilson was down below and had already punched it. So the ball was moving, first of all. Second of all, you look and you say, okay, well, what was it called on the field? You have to have indisputable evidence. And there's my guy, Daniel. Daniel's saving lives. He couldn't join the podcast today. He's in the chat, but he said leading the witness, especially in regard to the clapping and timeout fiasco, which we'll get to. But yes, the broadcast booth was leading the witness. At the end of the day, the ball was moving. There have been plenty. Shannon Sharp is another one that was on his podcast last night. There have been plenty of guys who have said, you can see the ball moving, so he doesn't have possession. And number two, they called it on the field. So you have to have indisputable evidence if you're going to overturn that call. So we should put that to bed. I know Auburn fans, I know Hugh Freeze was upset. I know everybody's upset. At the end of the day, keep showing me the still shots. Please keep showing me the still shots, the blurry still shots
with the red line,
with the red line, please. Because all you have to do, you watch the video, you will see the ball moving. And at the end of the day, the broadcast booth was absolutely malpractice. But that was the change in the game.
Yep.
And you know what was crazy about that is after that fumble, which again we can talk about this too. I mean, not only there's no whistle. Apparently, one of the refs said that Kyron Jones was down, but nobody officially called him down.
Yeah.
So it should have been a touchdown for Georgia going the other way. But I digress. We can leave that.
Did you see Kirby? There's a split second of him on the screen while that play was going on, where he's telling him run.
Yes, the whole sideline, the whole Georgia sideline was telling Kyron Jones to run. Okay, You know why that happens? If you've ever played on a football team, or if you ever played in any sport really that is governed by a whistle, when you see a number of people saying run, those people never heard a whistle. Yeah. Right. And you hear the whistle. I mean, you were trained when you play this sport, you hear the whistle. So when you see a whole, run, no one heard a whistle. And so to go back and call that and then give it to Georgia at the 1 yard line, I think was,
also malpractice.
It was also malpractice.
That's right. My man Allen in the chat, 100% right. Should have been a touchdown for Georgia, but even you give Georgia that touchdown. Or give Auburn that touchdown, sorry, and Georgia still wins. And that's maybe the bigger message for me. We're going to talk about the timeout in a minute. But other than, if we're going to debate anything in that game, it's that goal line fumble. And the crew on the field called it a fumble. The replay booth confirmed it was a fumble. Later in the broadcast, they said, our truck talked to the replay booth, saw what they were seeing. We agree it's a fumble. There's no argument. Other than that moment in the game, there's not a single other call or missed call that made any difference in the point spread in the game.
None.
So we're going to talk about the timeout. Auburn fan, go cry in a corner. Like there's that timeout doesn't make a difference, and it was a fumble on the goal line. I don't know what else to tell you.
Yep. So let's talk about why that was the turning point in this game. Okay. Yep. And it comes down to culture. BD in the chat absolutely is right. This was a culture win. We need to play both halves to win next week, though. But let's talk about culture, okay? That fumble happens. Georgia, has a targeting call. There's a couple of penalties on Auburn. Georgia goes down the field, ends up kicking a field goal. Auburn, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael. I'm not very good at math, but is 10 more than 3?
10 is, yes, it is. I think more than 3.
Yes. 10 is more than 3. Okay.
We went to the same high school. So,
well, that's true. Yeah. Product of Northwest Georgia Public Schools. Shout out Armurchie High School. But so we're not the best at math, but 10 is more than 3. Auburn is still going into halftime with a lead.
Yep.
Okay. Auburn has a lead. They have dominated for 28 and a half minutes of a first half. Going into halftime, Hugh Freeze is asked, what are you going to tell your team? Michael, I'm going to play the video. The people need to see the video. This was Hugh Freeze at halftime with a 10-3 lead in a first half that he had dominated. This was Hugh Freeze.
Brace yourselves.
What are you going to say to your team in the locker room after?
Hey, good. Keep playing, man. I mean, there's more stoppages, more. I mean, it may be the longest having football ever. I don't know how many timeouts that Georgia got with all the stoppages, and don't have no clue how that didn't break the plane. No clue. And you know, we're due a break, maybe one of these different times.
Maybe in the second half. Thank you, Coach.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael.
That man is in a blender. I mean, he is in an absolute blender.
That demeanor from Hugh Freeze, and I tweeted it at that moment. I was like, Hugh Freeze better have somebody in that locker room that can rally his team, because his demeanor walking in there was, we just lost a football game that you're still leading, that you still dominated 28 and a half minutes. And his focus was on, and I get the focus on the, call, whatever, but the way that he responded was, I have no idea how that didn't break the plane, and all these stoppages and all these. And then he said, well, maybe we'll have a break go our way one of these damn times. You are playing a top 10 team at night in your stadium and have a lead, and that's what you're going to say? Maybe we'll get a break one of these damn times. You dominated the first half of the football game. Hugh Freeze, we texted about it. Hugh Freeze could not flush that call, because you saw it with when the Georgia safety, maybe it was Kyron Jones, but you saw it when Hugh Freeze called a timeout early in the third quarter trying to get a targeting call.
Yeah,
on a play that wasn't targeting. The guy was already. Oh, the refs are out to get us. Oh, this is. Oh, he went into the locker room, and nothing changed in that locker room from the time he came out with his team for them to get out of victim mentality.
Yep.
And so at the end of the day, that for me was bigger than the call. The reaction by Hugh Freeze and Auburn, and that demeanor that they went into the locker room with and came out of the locker room with, was way, way bigger than that call on the impact of the game.
Yeah, that's a man who just used up all his bullets. I mean, he emptied the magazine, and he's looking out, and there's still an army coming at him, and he's just like, I don't know what to do anymore. Just absolute defeat.
Yeah,
right.
And I'll say shout out Kirby Smart, who has joined us now. Listen, yes, we do have life. Hugh Freeze. I don't know.
You're right on time, because we're about to talk about the second half.
We're about to talk about the second half.
Come back to life.
We're right on time. So before we get into that, the Dog Dispatch, subscribe to the show. The Dog Dispatch is powered by the Dog Social Club. If you want to go join that, dogsocialclub.com and Speakeasy Sports. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. All right, let's talk about the second half. Georgia comes out of the locker room. Hugh Freeze comes out, in his feelings. And boy, what a change in defense. What a change in demeanor from that second half, where, felt like you couldn't stop Auburn on third down, felt like you couldn't, stop the run. There's nothing that you could do. Georgia comes out and, gets the ball to start the second half, and it wasn't great. We go down the field a little bit. We end up have a couple of really good play calls lined up on that we just didn't execute, right? And Gunner looked a little bit off, maybe. Had that throw to Ellis Williams where I feel like he could have made, if he makes a better throw, that's a first down, ends up turning it over on downs. Auburn gets the ball back. Georgia immediately Auburn gets the ball back, and Georgia drops Eric Singleton Jr. for a 2-yard loss. Then Auburn gets a penalty. Then you really felt like that momentum shifting. You really felt like Auburn was in the blender. Do you have any? You talked about Kirby saying, I know the defense made adjustments, etc. What do you think is the difference between this team in the first and second half? Is it just that we see what they're doing now? Let's go in and let's rally the troops. Is it, maybe playing from behind is a little bit more, I don't know, comfortable for this team? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I think that's part of it. I think knowing, just that motivator of, okay, we got to get it together if we're going to walk out of here with a win. So that's a huge part of it. I think that's where, I don't know. I don't know the coaching, like, I don't know how coaches manage this, but I do think I remember that video you've all seen of Kirby Smart chopping on Jordan Davis's shoulder and just telling the team, keep chopping. I feel like halftime is the moment where they rally the troops and they say, all right, look, they gave us everything they got. We're only down by 7. Keep chopping. So it's got to be just motivation. I mean, because their skill sets don't change at halftime. The game plan does not completely alter at halftime. It's back to fire, passion, and energy. But by God, they found it. It's unbelievable. When you flip the offensive production between the two teams, first half, Auburn outruns Georgia by hundreds of yards. In the second half, I think they were at one point in the fourth quarter, Auburn had -5 yards for the second half on the ground. Just unbelievable.
Yeah. Georgia came out. The difference was Georgia stopped the run. I love what Locke Hesse said here in the chat, that Auburn was forced to dig themselves out of a lead and they couldn't do it. Georgia stopped the run, which was fundamental. That Kirby coming into the season, he said, we want to do two things. We want to run the ball and we want to stop the run. Georgia really couldn't run the ball very effectively versus Auburn, really all game. But Georgia found a way to stop the run, made Auburn one-dimensional, made Jackson Arnold try to, have to throw. We saw Michael, brace yourself. We saw Georgia not only cause a 3-and-out, but they got a sack in the process of causing a 3-and-out. With God, this is Sunday. With God, all things are possible.
Won't he do it?
I mean, won't he do it? Georgia got a 3-and-out and had a sack in the 3-and-out, which was incredible. And I think, I think when you stop the run, when you force teams to play behind the sticks, that's what happens. Your pass rush ends up getting home. CJ Allen just lit Jackson Arnold up. And I think when that happened, I think that was the moment as well where it just really felt like, okay, this thing is about to snowball.
We're steamrolling.
It is. And then we had the timeout. So let's talk about the timeout because everybody wants to talk about the timeout. I tweeted a tweet that has now found its way into the algorithms, and I can't keep up anymore. But I went back. So during the process of the timeout, okay, Kirby Smart calls for a timeout. Can we be clear from the video review that Kirby Smart called timeout?
I can agree with that. I've never clapped like this.
Yeah,
right.
I've never clapped like this. I think Kirby Smart was calling timeout. Now, at the end of the day, I also could see maybe a situation where Kirby is saying they're clapping while he's running and doing his hands, right? Because the play clock's running down. You have a situation where the Gunnar Stockton is looking over at the sideline. There could be a situation where he's doing this and also saying they're clapping. Because if you listen in the press conference, Kirby said they were clapping on defense. I had a guy watching for that and telling me when they were doing that, because that should be a penalty. And I have lost games versus this team in this stadium when that was happening. Okay. So Kirby, he built up this narrative to say, I had a guy watching. It sounds like the guy, if you look at the timing of the play, it sounds like the guy got in his ear and said, hey, the safety is clapping, because there is a video that you can go find on YouTube. I'm sorry, you can go find on Twitter. Michael tweeted it. There's a video where you see the safety for Auburn come up about 5 yards. He claps his hands. That's when Kirby, is running down the sideline. And then all chaos broke loose because the referee comes over. Kirby calls timeout. Referee calls timeout. Maybe Kirby is saying they're clapping and the referee just says timeout. But Kirby comes up to the referee and says, They're clapping. They can't clap. They're clapping. He goes over to another referee, points at Auburn and says, they're effing clapping, right? And so he's saying all this. And then for whatever reason, this is what I don't understand. Why did the referee just basically say, Georgia didn't call timeout, line it back up, we're going to rerun the play? I have never seen that happen in my life. I've never seen that happen in any level of football, where a referee, basically grants a timeout and then a coach says, I didn't call timeout. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, yep, you're right. You didn't call timeout.
What? Hugh Freeze wasn't the only person in the blender last night. That officiating crew, they were looking, they were looking for something and they kept finding holes in the ground and they didn't know the difference. But I think I'm going to give you an alternate interpretation of that moment. I think Kirby knows. He said in the post game, like, I've lost games because guys disrupting the snap, or I've been penalized before. And so I think he's got a guy watching for the clap. Clearly that safety claps. Kirby starts running, but that official is not looking around. He's watching the play. Kirby's doing everything he can to get that official's attention to say, they're clapping. I told you guys they were going to do this. They're clapping. And it's just muscle memory. He's like, how do I get the official's attention? And maybe he did yell timeout, but I think it was in the spirit of, stop, you guys pay attention. Stop this, right? So I think Kirby is he's got half a second to react, to get the official's attention, to point out the thing that he warned them about before the game. And so you're right. The real travesty is that then the officials didn't actually offer any explanation. The booth ran with it, with their own interpretation of the situation, and they've caused all kinds of, consternation that shouldn't be out there.
Not only did the booth run with it, but the booth said, Sean McDonough said, they can't let him get away with this. Yeah. That's what he said. That's a direct quote from Sean McDonough about Kirby Smart on the sideline. They can't let him get away with this, can they? It's like, what? Well, get away with what? So I get it, right? And I agree. If Kirby Smart was saying on the sideline, there's one clip where you see him say timeout. I think he was saying they cost me a timeout. More importantly, in the press conference, as Bubby pointed out, Kirby doubled down and said he didn't call a timeout. The way that Kirby said it, which is important, semantics are important. Kirby said, he thought I was asking for a timeout, or I guess he thought I was asking for a timeout, right? So Kirby was saying he did not call a timeout, but at the end of the day, Kirby, there was a little, whether Kirby was protecting the whether he was protecting the officials, whether he was protecting himself because he got a call, and he didn't want to go in there and be like, yeah, I was actually calling timeout, and the guy overturned it. Like, I don't know. But I didn't think that was a good look from Kirby at all in the press conference to basically say, I guess he thought I was calling timeout. Because you were motioning for a timeout, whether you were or not.
Right. But again, I mean, you remember that game where he, who were we playing? Florida, where Kirby basically ran over a player, like shoved a player out of the way because he's just in the moment. And he's like, and he didn't even realize he made contact with the player. I think Kirby is just tunnel vision in those moments. And so who knows what he remembered, what he was intending to do there. But my thought is, you saw him run on the field and immediately tell his team, don't come over here. I'm not trying to call a timeout. I'm trying to get the official to recognize they were clapping, So whatever this motion and maybe he said timeout, whatever happened there. Here's the bigger point. Like I said, we got 0 points on that drive. I don't know what to say first. Like, it didn't offer any production for Georgia, but then even if we got a penalty for a delay of game, we're back 5 yards. What's the next play we executed? It's like a 25-yard pass down the sideline. It's like, if we're third down? Yep. We're 3rd and 1, we're 3rd and 6, we're 3rd and 18. We're going to complete that pass. So it doesn't make a difference. We still didn't get points out of the thing. I just think you got to flush that one. And I know Auburn fans will never be able to, but
well, and I think, like Evan in the comments says, they made up for it with a phantom blindside block. I agree. Like, I think that was, there was didn't look like a blindside block. It felt like a makeup call. Grim35 also says, I would hate to be an SEC official. I mean, these are guys that, this guy, the guy who overturned the timeout for Kirby Smart, that has now lit a fuse among college football, saying, Kirby Smart should be suspended and all these things, is probably going to go back tomorrow. He's probably got meetings scheduled with the people that he advises for their portfolio, right? Because these guys are not full-time officials. They have jobs throughout the week, selling real estate or owning construction companies or whatever they do. And so I think that is one challenge, is like for 3 or 4 days a week, you're working your day job. Then all of a sudden you roll into Auburn with 100,000 people that, are liquored up and, a primetime environment and all these things. And I think it's absolutely crazy, like Evan says in the comments too, which is crazy. I think it's absolutely crazy that the SEC, specifically the Big Ten, you make enough money to have full-time officials. I have no idea why we're still doing this like part-time kind of officiating crews. It's unbelievable. And also more importantly is that, everybody wants accountability from SEC officiating. You let them do a press conference, let them explain their side, let them all of these things. And I want that as well. But I also say, like, if the SEC, I wouldn't do it. If you're not going to pay me, if this isn't my full-time job, if I'm getting paid good money to do it, but if this isn't my full-time job, I'm not, if I'm an SEC official, I'm not doing a press conference. I'm going back to, my wealth advisement job on Monday, right? It's like, pay me a lot more. Let me do this full time. And then, I'll agree to your press conferences or whatever. So I think there's a little bit of give and take. But yes, we did end up with an unused timeout, as Locke Hesse says in the comments. So it doesn't matter. I think the issue I have was with the commentating. I did have a little bit of issue with Kirby Smart with the way that he kind of responded to it in the press conference. And most importantly, I had an issue with the broadcast booth and everybody on Twitter running and saying Kirby Smart was saying, Kirby Smart basically convinced the official to not charge him a timeout. It's like, that official, they had stopped the game. The official could absolutely have said, no, you called timeout. You're charged a timeout, which he should have said. So for Kirby Smart, to be painted as like nefarious for that, attempt, please go watch Nick Saban. Please go watch Hugh Freeze when he called timeout in the third quarter when he thought Georgia was targeting. I mean, coaches call timeout or motion for timeout all the time, and then argue and light up the officials all the time. I mean, that stuff happens. So that's another thing. And Bowie just going right at Sean McDonough. He looks like a Muppet that's been washed on hot. Well, that's why you come to the reaction shows with the Dog Dispatch is for those kind of comments. I agree.
That's the take you're not going to get anywhere else.
You won't get this take anywhere else. All right. So the timeout situation, Georgia goes on and wins the game. Gunnar Stockton, the Superman on Cam Newton night. Holy moly. I mean, Gunnar Stockton, that run and going full extension, and then Oscar Delp, after Gunnar Stockton scored, Oscar Delp comes over and does the Cam Newton and then does the dab. I mean, those guys were – Georgia had turned a complete heel at that point, which I love to see.
I'm here for it.
And loved the way that Georgia, just ended that game on a 16-play, 8-minute and 45-second 78-yard death march to score a touchdown to put it away. Just an absolute clinic by Kirby Smart and Mike Bobo on that drive. I also, that missed field goal with the whole timeout fiasco and that whole series. I mean, Georgia left a lot of plays on the table. Especially the one where Georgia actually kicked the field goal to go up 13-10 that series before. That Dylan Bell end around was wide open. Dang, that execute. That screen pass, that throwback to Oscar Delp had plenty of space, and Monroe freely makes a block. I thought Mike Bobo in the second half was in his bag. I thought the guy was calling an incredible game, and this could have easily been, a 34-10 kind of game if we had executed on a few.
That reverse to Dylan Bell, where he overthrew the pass, to who was it? Zach Branch, who was
Mm-hmm.
out there to receive. That's the one that killed me because that is demoralizing. If we hit that play, the stand's empty. Like
Mm-hmm.
we were rolling downhill, and still, didn't matter. Won the game, but that was just one that would have. I think the mood would have been slightly different for the rest of that game if we'd hit that play.
Yeah, I totally agree. As Evan said, imagine if the SEC does. This is back to officiating, but imagine if the SEC did what the ACC does with replay reviews. The ACC, they show the replay booth, and you can hear it's the audio and the man. Evan, again, I think if SEC officials, if they will make them full time, then I would support this. But I ain't putting a real estate agent's life on the line out there with some of these SEC fan bases. You know what I mean? Like, this guy's just trying to sell a subdivision in, Homewood, Alabama, and all of a sudden, people are going to be at his house. Noah Thomas, a real person. God, Noah Thomas. I love
How
Noah
good did
Thomas.
that feel?
Yeah, I could not be happier for Noah Thomas with that reception that he made. Huge moment for the team, and that huge moment for him. Even though it was just one reception, he was targeted a little, a few times, and there's a couple times where I thought Auburn was pulling on him, and that didn't get called. All right, before we get out of here, let's talk about where this goes with what this means for the team. Right, Georgia. I think for Georgia it's pretty clear. It's just win, baby. It's just win, baby. Let's keep feeding Noah Thomas, as Mallory says in the comments. Give him a breakout game. Yes, I think Ole Miss would be a fantastic opportunity for Noah Thomas to break out. But at the end of the day, Georgia does have a top 4 Ole Miss team coming in who just beat Washington State by 3 points at home. A top 4 Ole Miss team coming in. But it is just win, baby, at this point, right? I mean, it's like this game has no bearing. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if it was 20-17, doesn't matter if it's 21-20. At this point for Georgia, you have everything in front of you as long as you keep winning. For Auburn, what do you do with Hugh Freeze? Like, what do you do with that clip that we played? What do you do with that demeanor? Like, what do you do with? I understand. The calls he got at Oklahoma. I understand, the situations that has been in, but this is a guy who came in, and Auburn was fully prepared to give him 3 to 4 years to rebuild this program. And now he's in year 3 and is 0-3 in SEC play. You think it's time for Auburn to move on from Hugh Freeze?
Yes, but I don't want to see it, because it's like Florida firing Billy Napier. Please don't do it. Can we contribute to his salary? Save you a little money, but don't let him go. I mean, if I'm an Auburn fan, I think I've seen enough. Got to get somebody in, and it's really unfortunate because the carousel down there in Auburn has not served them well. And I don't know how you rebuild. Like you got to let somebody take it down to the studs, and you just got to brace for a 2 to 3 year rebuild again. I don't know how you got the right guy, but it ain't.
Well, Auburn feels like they are on the Florida rebuild train, except Florida and Tennessee. Except both Florida and Tennessee, they had a guy that actually had the program going in the right direction. And I'll just say it, Tennessee with Butch Jones, like don't. I know the wheels fell off there at the end, but the guy had kind of recovered from Derek Dooley and, all the Philip Fulmer stuff and whatever, Lane Kiffin, et cetera. And then Florida, I mean, you had Muschamp, you had McElwain, you had Mullen, who had them going again in the right direction, and Florida just wasn't satisfied with that. And now they're here. It feels like Auburn is kind of in that same situation without the actual, guy who's had them going in the right direction. All right, Georgia does have Ole Miss coming in. We're going to talk about that on the podcast this week. I'll have some guests on from the Ole Miss side to talk about things. Give me a link. What's that?
Brace yourself. It's going to be a bumpy ride. I don't know how the coaches adjust for this, but I'm looking. We got Ole Miss, we've got Florida, we got Mississippi State. That won't be a cakewalk. I mean, we don't get a break on the schedule until November 15th. Like it's going to be tough for the next few weeks. So
yeah, and this is the new reality of college football. We could address that here before we get out of here for sure. I saw a lot of people on Twitter talking about Kirby Smart should be on the hot seat. In the first half, literally, a guy said if Kirby Smart isn't willing to make a change with Mike Bobo and Glenn Schumann, then he should be on the hot seat. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, okay, I agree with you that the first half, whatever is happening in the first half, has to be fixed.
Yep.
I also agree with you that, like, maybe there is a little bit of like complacency, or I don't want to say complacency. God, maybe there's a little bit there. Maybe there's something going on that we're not aware of with Kirby Smart in the way that he's showing up differently than he has showed up previously. But I'll be damned. Like, who are you going to put in that seat? Please tell me. Please tell me who. Give me names. I want names of people that you would put in that seat that you think would make who would make a change at offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator that would improve the results that Georgia's going to get on the field. Who are the names that you would put leading this program that would do better than what this guy's doing? This is the new reality of college football. The new reality of college football. Nick Saban has said it. Kirby Smart has said it. Steve Sarkisian, God bless his heart, has said it. Everybody has said it, that you can't expect to roll the ball out and go 15-0 anymore. Like, this, it's just not going to happen. Yep. And, oh, by the way, Nick Saban never went 15-0 in a 15-game season. He had 2 undefeated seasons. One was COVID and one was before it took 15 games. And now you have more than 15 games. So this is going to happen. So I'll say this very plainly. If you're looking for Georgia to roll the ball out and beat teams by 3 touchdowns every single week, this might not be the sport for you anymore. If you're looking for any team.
Yep.
I mean, look at Oregon and Indiana. I mean, Lord have mercy. Kurt Cignetti has Indiana looking like a juggernaut. Dan Lanning, had Oregon looking like, unbeatable. All we heard for a week was Ohio State and Oregon are the only 2 elite teams in college football. Ohio State and Oregon are the only 2 elite teams in college football. Oregon just got beat at home by Indiana. And so this is going to happen. This is the new world of college football. If you're looking for teams to win by 100, this might not be it for you. But at the end of the day, it's as Daniel said in the chat, imagine literally beating everyone except Alabama and people are calling for your job.
And Mallory points out only by 3 points. We only lost by 3. That's what kills me more than anything. We're not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to talk about Alabama. But man, cumulatively, what have we lost to Alabama by? Like 9 points in the last 3 games or something?
If you go back, I will say this. If you go back and look, go back I think it's a 3. I'll tweet it. But I think it's a 3-year period, 4-year period. The total points that Georgia has lost by, including losing by 18 at Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
The total points that Georgia has lost by in the losses over the last 4 years, there are teams that will make the college football playoff that have lost single games by more points than Georgia has lost all of their losses combined over the last 4 years. And so, yeah, you tell me. At the end of the day, Georgia versus we will not talk about Alabama again, but Georgia should have won that game. And so Georgia should have won the last 4 versus Alabama. And at the end of the day,
and by God, Tyler Simmons was onside.
By God, as my good buddy, 3-year letterman would say, Alabama has not won a legit national championship since Paul Bear Bryant, and even some of those were not legit. So you had COVID. 2017, Alabama didn't win their division. This has turned into an Alabama podcast. All right, we'll be back this week with some special guests talking Georgia Ole Miss. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, come join us at the Dawgs Social Club, dawgssocialclub.com. We really appreciate it. Have a great Sunday.
Go Dogs.